Welcome to the program. I'm Okpeyemi Owusheni. The cryptocurrency market has experienced a sharp sell-off following the implementation of United States President Donald Trump's tariffs on Chinese goods. Bitcoin dropped 4.1% to $76,000, while Ethereum saw an even steeper decline of 8.3% over the past 24 hours, marking its lowest trading point since March 2023. Now, Bitcoin briefly fell below the 75,000 mark on Tuesday, that's the 8th of April, just hours before the tariffs took effect. The cryptocurrency is now down approximately 30% from its January peak of $109,000, which shortly before Donald Trump's inauguration. The Presidential Compressed Natural Gas Initiative says it is aiming to attract $1 billion in investment into Nigeria's alternative fuel sector by December 2025. The initiative's project director and the chief executive officer, who made this known while speaking with newsmen at the State House Abuja, expressed confidence that the ambitious investment target is well within reach, citing recent progress in the sector. TV3's correspondent Victoria Akonde completes the report.
The Presidential Compressed Natural Gas Initiative, launched by President Bola Tinubu on October 1, 2023, is aimed at facilitating the adoption of compressed natural gas, CNG, and electric vehicles in Nigeria as a response to the removal of fuel subsidies and the rising cost of transportation. Providing an update on the initiative's infrastructure expansion, Project Director and Chief Executive Officer says continued growth in investment inflows could see the initiative surpass its target. He added that the expected increase in conversion centers will significantly expand Nigeria's capacity to transition vehicles from petrol to gas.
To further bolster this base infrastructure, we have co-opted our private sector partners to deploy over 150 new refueling locations in the next 18 months. NNPC have already deployed 12 sites, with 8 to go this quarter, making it 20. An approval for additional 100 sought and secured for the next 18 to 24 months to be deployed across the country. NIPCO has imported equipment for 32 data stations, with 22 in operation and 8 under construction. Bovas has 8 under construction, AOI Shafa has completed 1 and 9 under construction. Entities like Ibilo Oil are developing additional 8 sites. MBH and Mikano are also investing in not just mother stations, but also not just data stations, but also mother stations.
Responding to recent concerns over fuel availability, Oluwagbemi said the PCNGI had launched a last-mile gas infrastructure scheme to support refueling needs and ease pressure caused by increased CNG adoption. It further announced plans to launch a diesel conversion program later this year, highlighting its potential to reduce food and goods transportation costs by up to 80%.
If I just take the 100 additional NNPC investments in data stations, that's close to $50 million, and the $27 million are rated. We're already close to $100 million in the last 1 month alone, right? So we continue to see increasing investments in the sector. So if I'm doing about 100 million a month, I think Mr. Tokwe Ajayi can prove my maths right. I'll be close to $1.2 billion by the end of the year. So yes, I think I'm confident we'll hit our $1 billion goal.
In line with its capacity development goals, the CEO says the initiative is also collaborating with the Federal Ministry of Education and the Midstream and Downstream Gas Infrastructure Fund to introduce discounted CNG services and transportation in 20 federal universities while turning campuses into hubs for technician training and gas infrastructure development.
Through this university program, discounted conversion for staff and members of these universities and surrounding institutions will be made available, as well as affordable CNG transportation on buses and tricycles to be operated by the PCNGI private sector partner, Femadec Nigeria Limited, pre-qualified by the Midstream Downstream Gas Infrastructure Fund, who will be leveraging MDGIF. The first 6 universities are already built to be launched at the end of this quarter.
So far, about 22,000 conversion kits have been delivered, with 10,000 conversions expected to be completed by the end of the current quarter. Victoria Akonde, TV260 News, Lagos.
We'll go on a short break now and be back with company news.
Hello. Alahaji. Right now I'm in Abuja. No. Hello? Adamu. Right now I'm in Kano. Yes. When I get back, I will just call you. Look, what is wrong with you? I'm talking on the phone and you are gesticulating and doing. What's wrong with you?
Daddy, where exactly are we as we speak?
Are you alright? This is Lagos.
Well, you just lied to someone that we are in Abuja.
Keep quiet. Who told you you can tell an elderly person is lying?
Daddy, you just lied. And by lying, you are raising corrupt children for the future of Nigeria. That is corruption, not in my country.
Corruption not in my country.
Welcome back. Now, Access Holdings PLC has notified the investing public and the Nigerian Exchange Limited of a potential delay in the publication of the group's audited financial statement for the year ended December 31st, 2024. This announcement was made in a recent disclosure posted on the exchange following a similar notice on February 27th, in which the holdings indicated the possibility of a delay due to the complexities involved in the post-completion audit activities. According to the latest disclosure, the group has submitted its audited statement to the CBN for approval. However, it acknowledges that recent public holidays may hinder the CBN's review and approval processes. We'll go on a break now, but when Money Matters return, we're discussing the United States President Donald Trump imposing 14% tariff on all Nigeria's exports to the United States. I'll bring you details of the story after this break.
In the last 3 years, we have built a multi-purpose center, which is the envy of all in our constituency. And I can tell you that the people who are living there are already enjoying it.
Guy, do you think what this man just said is true? See, I seriously doubt. I'm sure it's one of those their silly lies.
And wait, do you know there's a way to find out if these things he's saying is true or not? This is the Construct app. It gives people like us a sure way to track implementation of constituency projects. It gives valid and verified information on location of projects, amounts allocated, amount funded, the level of job done, and even the profiles of concerned legislators. You and I can post directly on this app.
Are you serious?
This is the go-to app if you want to know how our Commonwealth is being expanded by the government.
Wow. Let's even see if what this man said is true. Show me.
The Construct app is developed by Other People Nigeria with support from USAID and is available on both Google Play Store and Apple Store.
And it's true.
Of course, I told you.
Welcome back. Now, in a major shift in global trade policy, the United States President Donald Trump has announced a 10% baseline tariff on all imports with additional country-specific duties. Now, under this new policy, Nigerian exports to the U.S. will now attract a 14% tariff when compared to the 27% the U.S. claims it faces on Nigerian imports. Data from the NBA shows that Nigeria's trade within the U.S. totaled 31.1 trillion naira over the last decade, with imports accounting for 16.4 trillion naira or 0.87% of Nigeria's global export. Now, this announcement made during a Rose Garden event tagged Liberation Day marks a dramatic shift from the decades of free trade orthodoxy that has underpinned the global economy since World War II. Meanwhile, amid the announcement of sweeping tariffs, the United States President Donald Trump says the United States Trade Representatives has faulted Nigeria's import ban on 25 items, saying the restrictions limit market access for American exporters. Now, according to the statement posted on its X platform, Nigeria's restrictions on items like beef, pork, poultry, fruit juices, medications, and spirits limit the United States market access and reduce export opportunities. Now, let's discuss the implication of this for Nigeria's economy. Economist Segun Shokwiton now joins me on the program. Thank you for joining me on the program, Mr. Shokwiton. Now, Trump has been throwing tariff everywhere and it is affecting everybody. Now, but this particular one is quite significant, 14%. Now, how do you foresee this 14% tariff affecting Nigeria's key export sectors, particularly crude oil and agriculture, in terms of revenue, trade balance, and overall economic growth?
Well, so basically, this is this means that Nigeria will pay more. Nigerian businesses exporting products into the US will pay more in terms of taxes, which obviously then means that the profitability of those transactions will be negatively impacted. So for those individual businesses, they will have to find a way to pass that on, So I would imagine that at some point in the value chain, that additional cost will be passed on to a consumer somewhere along that chain. But generally speaking, it definitely means that you are receiving less value for the items that you're exporting into those countries into the US because you are paying more taxes. Having said that, however, it's also important to then contextualize that within the realms of the proportion of our total exports that goes into the United States. And depending on which year you're looking at, that range from between 5 to 10% at any point in time, which, yeah, it's a lot, but it's not significant enough to create, a massive negative impact or outlook on our trade balances, on the profitability of our export business, on our forex revenues, and all of that. So the impact will be mitigated. It will be there, but it's not something that we will not be able to navigate our way around.
Now, what steps do you think the Nigerian government and businesses can take to mitigate the negative effect of this tariff, if there will be any? And do you see any opportunities for trade diversification?
Well, for one thing, whether it's with regards to Nigeria with the 14%, or even countries where the Trump administration has slammed as high as 200%, tariffs. In some places, it's 100%, some places 50%. Whatever the case might be, and including Nigeria, one of the things that you obviously then need to begin to do is to look for alternative trade partners. The United States is not necessarily the only country that you could export your products to. So if you find, for example, that you're exporting, say, $1 million worth of products to the United States every year, and you are getting of that business, of that volume of business, then you might want to look for other territories, other countries around the world where the tariffs are either zero or not as high as that. So there are definitely strategies that can be adopted to ensure that the impact of this is mitigated. And I think one of them is certainly looking for alternative trade partners on the international level. Beyond and this is true for the other people that are also the other countries that are also affected. I think the United States will eventually find out that they are not the only ones that people can trade with, and eventually the person that loses in all of this will be the consumers in the United States. Of course, by the time you take the ripple effect of these policies and how it can affect other areas of economic activity indirectly, I mean, yes, there are potential headwinds and challenges ahead, including potential inflationary pressures, from the United States into Nigeria, from the United States into other parts of the world, and the impact that this will generally have on the global economy. So, but in terms of direct impact, with regards to our exports to the United States, I think we can find a way around it.
Now, given this tariff and the broader United States trade policy shift, what long-term effects could this have on Nigeria's trade relationship with other major economies? And should Nigeria reconsider its trade agreement and foreign trade policies?
Well, like I just said now, you might likely see that Nigeria is doing more business with maybe a country like Canada, even though the market in that country is not anywhere near as large in terms of just the volume of consumers as the United States. But You could also turn your eyes and turn your gaze towards the east, towards Asia. You could turn your eyes towards Europe. Ultimately, you have to find alternative markets where you can do your business without the unnecessary additional costs, additional expenses that this tariff wars is going to bring about between ourselves and the United States. So, like I said before, 5% of our total export volume, that, for me, I think you can easily spread that into other parts of the world. You can spread some of that into Europe, you can spread some of that into Asia. If there are products that are specifically tied to doing business with the United States, then so be it. What that would automatically mean is that if our exporter is paying more in terms of tariffs to the government, then they will obviously also upscale their invoice values, to the people that are buying their product in the United States. So invariably, we don't necessarily have to take too much of a hit in terms of, suffering losses as a result of these tariffs. Ultimately, even if there's price inelasticity in the particular sector that you're operating in, you will still have to try to transmit some of those additional costs from these tariffs, to your consumers and to your counterpart, your trade partners, wherever it is that you're operating. So I think for me that will be the way to go, and that will be the solution, and that's what most exporters are likely to do where they can. Where they can't, you look for alternatives.
You would agree with me, Mr. Shopiton, that Nigeria has so many small and medium enterprises, and most times whenever policies are given, they are usually on the receiving end. Now, how do you think this tariff, I meant to say, might affect Nigerian SMEs that rely on export to the United States? And what strategies do you think they can adopt to remain competitive in the global market?
And what are the products that we're shipping to the United States as small business? The bulk of our export volumes to the United States is energy related. It's either crude oil or crude oil related products. The small business player who is sending in maybe adire, in small scale volumes, to the United States, who is sending processed food, who is targeting, for example, the diaspora community in those places. Those are the type of things that small business exporters generally tend to do, to play in. I think what obviously would likely happen is that they will look for other places, because for them, transferring those costs to their consumers, to their counterparty and their buyer, the United States, may be difficult. So where they can, they will. Where they can't, they have to look elsewhere. I really don't think that we will see any significant impact of this on anybody, on whether it's on Nigeria, whether it's on our small business players. I think they will find a way around this. The ultimate loser is likely to be the United States, because they will be losing trade volumes and their consumers will be suffering inflationary pressures and maybe a restriction of options, of a variety of products that are available to them, because people are looking for other markets to ship their products to. So minimal impact, to be honest, whether you're talking of small business, whether you're talking of Nigeria, whether you're talking of the large corporations that are exporting crude oil and energy products to the US, the impact is going to be relatively minimal.
Now, finally, just before I let you go, do you think this tariff can strain Nigeria-United States relations? And what diplomatic or economic measures should the Nigerian government pursue to negotiate better trade terms or exceptions?
Well, unfortunately, I think if you look at the balance of trade between the two countries, it's very likely that we are in a deficit compared to the United States. We import more things from them than we export to them. What that means is that the power of reciprocity in international diplomacy, we may not have enough of an influence on our side to wield that diplomatic instrument. We may not, for example, be able to say, look, you've slammed us with 14% tariffs, we're going to hit you with 20%, the way Canada is doing, because the United States imports 61% of its energy needs, from Canada. So Canada has an upper hand and can retaliate. The retaliatory opportunities for Nigeria are limited. So we will just simply have to take it as we see it. one expects that the Minister, excuse me, of Trade and Investment will probably, initiate and trigger some sort of talks with the United States trade representatives on this side of the Atlantic, and see whether they can get some sort of preferential treatment from the Trump administration. But that's extremely unlikely given the balance of trade situation and given the, just the volume of trade in itself, which is not really significant enough for us to matter. we honestly, we don't matter that much. This war is going to be happening between the United States and the large other big economic powers around the world. And what we are likely to see is that we may suffer some collateral damage, whether it's in terms of inflation, whether it's in terms of an outward flow of capital to likely higher interest havens that the United States might become as their federal bank, as their Federal Reserve begins to hike rates to mitigate inflationary pressure that will be caused by this tariff hike. So in terms of direct bilateral trade implications, diplomacy, there's very little we can do. We can talk, and try to see whether we can mitigate some of this, but the power is not really on our side. So we just have to deal with it the best way we can.
Well, economist Segun Sopitan, many thanks for lending your thoughts on the program. And that's it on this episode of the program. Many thanks for joining us. I'm Okpayemi Owosheni. See you next time.